Well, I'm sure that this is a topic we can all relate to. What cartoons did you watch in your youth? How did they affect your play patterns? Do they still affect your play? And by extension, your display patterns right about now. So this is an exciting one, everyone who happens to be watching. So wherever you are, just want to welcome you to this weekend edition of the Toy Connections online live stream, or TKO. So whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope you're tuning in. You've got a beer in hand, a coffee in hand, or nothing in hand, whatever it is. Maybe you're just watching because you enjoy toys, you enjoy cartoons, and you enjoyed the way that the cartoons influenced or maybe didn't influence your play patterns in your youth and your adulthood. So look, I tend to ramble for quite a bit of time at the beginning of these preambles, but we've got an excellent panel of guests backstage right now, so we're going to start bringing them in. This gentleman has been on the show a few months ago talking Masters of the Universe. He loves toys all around, loves playing toys with his kids, passing on knowledge to the next generation. So from the Toy Domination YouTube channel, Dom, welcome back, my friend.
Ken, man, I feel like it's been forever since it's been on here, man. Thanks so much for reaching out.
Yep. It's been 3 months, but it does feel like it's been forever.
I want to take just 1 second here. I know we got a couple of guests backstage, but I'm just going to break this episode down really quickly, okay? Here's how this works. So, you want to make money, right? So therefore, you're going to go ahead and you got to get those cartoons out there, but you can't go beyond 30 seconds. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to develop a 30-minute commercial. But no, the FCC said you can't do that. So instead of making a commercial, let's go ahead and make a cartoon and we'll get those kids happy. And then I'll circle back and get some money. But you know what? We want to save money over here. So we're going to cut out those artists. So we'll save money over here, and all those toys, well, you got to extend off and branch out. So that's basically in a summary what this is going to boil down to today,
I think. That's got to become its own clip. I got to be honest with you. We almost that was the mic drop of the stream. We're like 2 minutes in, a minute and a half, which I was talking, 30 seconds of which was intro, and you've already dropped the mic. So I always say I love not only your insights and things like that, which is why I think you're so underrated as a channel, but like the fact that, you put your name in your channel name and made it this clever little toy domination thing. And I did the whole toy connections thing. And it's like, you see us on camera and they're like, great minds think alike. But all right, this next individual, you probably seen me comment on his videos or at least bring his name up in the chat. It's his first time on the TKO live stream and probably first time on camera in a live stream ever. But you can find his channel name in the description of this video as well. James Ratface44 Reviews. Welcome to TKO.
What's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
How's it going?
First time you put your face on camera.
Yeah, that's true. Except for my brother's channel. We do a toy hunt.
Okay, fair enough.
Kind of the first time, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so we didn't fully pop your cherry on this one, but
Oh my God!
Sorry, am I allowed to be inappropriate on this stream? You know what? I'm making the rules.
Channel, man. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm just gonna rewrite the rules of the YouTube agreement right there. But welcome to TKO for the
Thank you very much.
first
Thanks
time.
for having me.
Oh, no problem. You're most welcome on here, and we love the background. And returning again, he seems like a regular on here, but it's been probably 2 months since he's been on the channel. So let's bring one of my favorite people to talk wrestling and all things toys with from the Island of Misfit Toy Collectors, Dreadnought Ryan Sweeney. Buddy.
Finally, the Dreadnought has come back to TKO.
Yes. And that's not a spoiler alert. The Rock is not going to be in the Royal Rumble tonight, or if he is, it's going to blow the roof off of the place. So, Royal Rumble starts in about 90 minutes. So I figured let's hype that a little bit if anyone happens to be wanting to watch. And you have my condolences. You cracked 1,000 views on a video, which is completely against the purpose of your channel, you said,
Yep, I'm going to delete it and start over again.
Which one did you get 1,000 views on, Ryan?
The Tiger Force figure review.
Oh, that's right.
You see, he was honest. I would have said I got 1,000 views on the one where I pulled a wedgie on Ken the way, Nelson on The Simpsons does the Millhouse. I would have said that. But, Ryan's more honest than I am. So
no, it was the one I just like put a review out. You got the figures. You think they're cool. And I don't know. It's, it's YouTube. I just do this for what I like to do and have fun with my buddies. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
It happens.
Awesome. Look, we got an exciting topic and we've got a pretty active chat at the moment. So I'm going to try to do this as quickly as I can, even though the screen's going to freeze on me a bunch of times. We got Master Versal Toy Hunter, Jeff Morris playing with my 3.75. No, that's
I know
not
that
Jeff.
guy.
Yeah, that's two different people. That's not Jeff Morris playing with his 3.75. It's three. It's two people. Sorry, Jeff. I shouldn't bust your balls like that. I know that. Anyway, shiny plastic people. We got Quip. We got TJC, who I was talking to on Facebook recently. Payne's toy samples, as always. Joseph Adams, Sergeant Slaughterhouse in the house. I said hi to Joseph Adams already. Gazz is here. Scrolling. We got Nolan. We've got Boba Hicks. All right. Highly articulated, who I seem to talk to all the time. We got some people on Facebook saying F, yeah, Ken. We got Byron Olinger, Ostradamus Toys, who was actually live earlier with his son. We've got Kofi19, new name, but welcome. Impossiblepie, another one of the members.
John
Wow.
That approach. Yeah, that's what I was going. I forgot to say boom. Ah, crap.
Yes. Totally forgot about that, but it takes a football fan to know that. So, all right, Wilhelm, Toy and Hobby, and I think we're just about. Oh no, we're not caught up yet. Erkman 227. Well, thank you all these people for supporting. Oh, it's your brother. Nice. Yeah. And then we got you yourself in here.
There I am.
Yep. And Gazz will be putting in the channel descriptions as he always is. I never ask him to, but he's such a what do you call it? Keen, and his moderation skills are beyond top notch. He's going to be doing things like this throughout, which I always appreciate. I hope I didn't miss anyone.
We have to be honest. He is the heart and soul behind TKO Live.
He basically is. You know, like we could just sit here. He could just type in the chat about Megaforce and all that. Then, you know, I could just go off camera and be like, all right, Gazz, you take the show for the rest of it. Yeah. Anyway, legitimate legend, apparently. All right. Okay. Look, gentlemen, first off, thanks for helping out with that preamble, Dom. I'm still thinking if I want to clip that into my own thing, or if I should just tell you, clip it into your own thing and put it on Toy Domination as a good gag. You have my permission to go do that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just put up another video. It's fine. Just go for it. But look, we all played with toys as kids. We all either came rushing home on an afternoon after school to catch the afternoon cartoons before dinner time, or we caught them on Saturday mornings and occasionally on Sunday mornings. And we probably still watch some of them today. But how did watching the cartoon affect your play patterns and influence your play patterns in the playground, in the backyard, in your living room, in your bedroom, when your friends were over as a kid? Dom, we'll go clockwise.
Oh, first of all, I think it's a really cool topic that you tied, not just talking cartoons or toys. You said, like, how do we play? Like, that's a really cool combination. I'm going to be contrarian and say they didn't affect my play. And I know that, like, oh, Dom, but they didn't, because sometimes I'd find the toys first and I would make, like, I found Torpedo was my first G.I. Joe. I thought he was a space guy because he was in black and white. So when I saw someone in a submarine, I'm like, why is that astronaut in a submarine? They're like, he's a diver. I'm like, no, he's a space guy. So I kind of went backwards on some of those. And I actually wasn't allowed to collect G.I. Joes as a kid. And I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was too violent. My mom was very much like a hippie. So, like, it kind of diffracted me from that too. So my G.I. Joe play was completely different. Now, I'll get into it later in the show and what we ended up doing. But my MOTU was the big thing I had as a kid. And I really loved that cartoon. But when I would go play with MOTU, it was a totally different head canon. Like, absolutely, like, people died and, like, there was no power sword and Skeletor was a minion. It was all just mix max because I'd pick it up and be like, oh, this is going to be this guy now. So I ran rampant with it, but I still loved that show. You know what I mean? It's not like I just crapped on it. I was like, I loved it, but yeah, I ran off the rails. So.
Okay. So, that's what I like to hear. And that'll probably feed into the next question a little bit later on with some of the stuff that you said. Well, James, I'm going to give you the floor for the first time on TKO here. So why don't you weigh in on this same topic?
Well, when it has to do with the cartoon and maybe the comic book, it would give, like, when I was a kid, give your toy a little bit of, like, a personality, instead of or just add it to your headcanon's personality of the action figure, so you could have, like I was saying, like, personality of those figures, and then you could make up a story in your head and have fun. Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So basically, I'm hearing from both of you. You watched the cartoon and you made up your own headcanon a little bit. So
Yeah,
that's good.
It would definitely help with play. When
All
I
right.
was a kid, at least.
All
But
right.
you know, sometimes you just make up your own thing. You know, dig a hole in the sand and make a base. You know, and then come up with a scenario. A lot of people would obviously die in my play, but yeah, it's.
I want to go Ryan next, Kim, but I do want to ask a follow-on question if I can before we jump to the next subject. Sorry.
All right. No, that's totally good.
I want Ryan to be able to
Right.
talk. So.
No, that's totally good. Ryan, give us your thoughts, brother.
So for me, it was always about the characters and how they acted on the show helped drive how I perceived those characters and how I played with them. Duke was your leader. Flint was the leader. Sergeant Slaughter was the tough guy, but he was also your leader. Cobra Commander was kind of a doofus. Destro was awesome. Zartan was the best, of course. It helped develop the two-dimensional characters that you read on the back of the file card or in the comic book, and it just added that third dimension for you. So you had that, fleshed out character that you could use to play with. It also helped when you're playing with your friends because you all kind of perceive those characters the same way because of the cartoon, which helps stop a lot of the arguments.
Huh. So that was going to be my follow-on, was that did anyone actually take the characters that were handed to you? Because so Zazel had like a heartwarming rendition when we were on some stream where he was just like, oh yeah, I played Sergeant Slaughter because they didn't have the toy and I gave the Joes orders. They went out and did something and came back. And I was like, that's amazing. But in my mind, like none of the Joes were actually the Joes I was given. They were whomever else we picked, like Nameless Dude, or it was codename Muskrat, but that code name can change over. Did you actually have like when you played Duke is Duke in your own scenarios, but Duke is still Duke?
For me, yeah. He was that all-American, the all-American boy. I always looked at Duke as Superman and Flint as Batman. So I always preferred Flint more so to Duke because Flint was a little bit more flawed. I could relate more to that than I could, the perfect man, which was, Duke.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, Duke was Captain America.
More
so than Superman for me. And who would Flint have been? Like not Wolverine, but like somebody with I don't know, actually.
Come on, Gambit.
The deep voice, yes, it wasn't as snarky, but yeah, the deep voice kind of works. I mean, look, I didn't like if I went too far out of character from the cartoon, I would feel like I was playing wrong. And I almost feel like, did I put too many limits on myself for doing that, for being like, okay, if I suddenly make Optimus Prime a bad guy and he willingly was made a bad guy and not someone who was brainwashed, you know what I mean? If I had, and I didn't play with MOTU that much as a kid, but if I had, the evil horde, or not the horde, but his Skeletor's minions suddenly go and help the Masters, was I playing wrong? I could only do it for so long before I'd go back and like rehash something out of the cartoon and then expand on it. You know what I mean? Like take that episode and like continue it in a way.
Yeah.
That's what I love doing. And that was for Ninja Turtles. That was for Ghostbusters. That was for Transformers, G.I. Joe, a little bit of He-Man, superheroes, you name it. So it's the way it was. But sorry, I'm just, as we're having this conversation, I'm having like this flood of memories as a kid of like what I did.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Like one of my favorite Joes was Lowlight. And he had, blonde hair, blue eyes. So I always fixated that's me. Lowlight is me, and that's how I kind of put my own personality into Lowlight, that this is me right here. I'm, a sniper and crawling around in the dark, That's how I would play when I was a kid. I would just pretend I'm Lowlight.
Mm-hmm. And that was okay, because like if you had a character that kind of resembled you, like you said, like if you were a blonde-haired kid growing up, that's how you would do it, right?
Yeah.
When I looked at the Joes, one of the few options was somebody like Quick Kick, and I didn't have that, and I didn't want to be like a stunt man either. So I don't know what I would do. I'd have to like kit bash something, and it took too much work. Like, could I take Airborne's head and put it on somebody else's body? One of the things I could do, but that would get into the second part of what we want to talk about here, and that's and all of you have already touched on it in some way, shape, or form, but did you invent your own headcanon independent of the cartoons? And how how the characters behave there, and did you make them behave differently? Dom, you've already basically said yes, but feel free to expand on that a little bit.
There's some cool comments in here too that in the chat they're like, yeah, my Cobra Commander is competent, scary. You know, I mixed these two guys together. I mixed Silverhawks and Thundercats together with MOTU. Like, yeah, I think that's where I was too, because unlike with collecting now, where you dive into a line, when I was a kid, you don't really have that much discretionary, what you get at Christmas or birthdays. So yeah, I absolutely blended lines within scales, and then that would create your own games, but I didn't really have a canon per se. Yeah, I didn't have something that was like an ongoing. I will say that Dick Tracy and the Ninja Turtles, because they're the same scale, and I had two neighbors, Bill and Brad, that they were the ones who were like, hey, look, these are the humans in the world, and here's the Ninja Turtles. I'm like, and looking back, I was like, man, that is genius. Like, all these goons you can kick around, and then when Rocksteady comes out, he's actually can take on the 4 turtles, but you need, goons to kick around. I was like, that was really fun. So that became like the established role, but not necessarily like canon. You know what I mean?
All right.
I'll pause to let someone else go. I'm going to eat wings during this too. This is a terrible dinner choice. It's so messy. I hope you're not disgusted with me eating, but I am absolutely starving, and I'm just going to mess my mic up in camera with wingy fingers here. So
hey, do what you got to do, right? If it's supper time over there,
I'll also eat like this too. I'll just like I'll just get right up in it. So I want to share the experience. These are good.
To turn it into an ASMR thing.
Oh,
except for the actual taste.
That sends tingles up and down the back of your neck, James. No shaming, I guess. But
me sipping on a beer.
Well, Kevin Pellerine from the I only know this because of the comment on because he signed his name here, but from the Facebook group that you and I are in, James, the Canadian Toy Gallery, he quit playing hockey because he wanted to watch G.I. Joe.
Whoa! And
back then, it might have been frowned upon. Today, I say, good on you. Gotta love it. Thanks for stopping in, Kevin.
That's some dedication though to quit.
That's some dedication.
As a kid, like sports were everything when I was a kid. I took it so seriously. I used to cross country run. I used to do track and field, everything, right? And run around in the forest, play guns. That was a big part of my life, and toys were kind of secondary, really.
It sounds like a drug commercial. Before toys, I was active. I used to be into sports, but toys, they got me.
The toys that got me. I kind of had a balance in my life. I was pretty balanced when I was a kid, always outdoors, playing with my toys or just running around causing mischief, right? So
that's all good. So was that how you wanted to answer, James, or did you want to kind of expand on that?
What was the question?
The question was, what was the question again, Dom? What did I ask you?
No.
It's headcanon. It's headcanon. Did you expand on did you make up your own stories as a kid? And how different were they from the actual cartoon that you were told?
Definitely make my own stories up, right? Because the cartoon was the cartoon. It was a separate thing. The toys, I know G.I. Joe came out before the cartoon, right? Like the 82, 83, and then the cartoon came out. Am I not wrong about that? But I remember that.
You're right.
Yeah, I definitely played with the toys before the cartoon. And I would make up my own stories, really. That was a kind of a separate thing. I was super excited to run home from school to watch G.I. Joe, Transformers, just sprint home as fast as I can, and just to catch the show, because there was new episodes every week, right? Or once a week or every Thursday, or I can't remember, but that's another thing. My memory is pretty hazy recently. In my old age,
it's all those toys. They mess you by those toys, man.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I have this Joe. I remember I pretty much have every Joe that I had when I was a kid, right? So I spoiled myself.
That's what we're supposed to do at our age, anyway.
Yeah. I remember my father threw out all my Joes. They're in a bag in the closet with all. Bunch of bags. I just I was gonna put it with all the bags. He took all the bags, chucked them in the garbage, and there's all my Joes. that was pretty traumatic.
Do you remember what was in there? Any microphones and mail-aways?
I don't think any mail away. Maybe there was one. I know probably that belt, the GI Joe belt, and the dog tag. I have my brother's dog tag, but yeah, there was some mail away stuff in there.
We've all had it. I lost my first mobile command center when my parents moved homes, and I never got a chance to go retrieve it. So it's all good. It's okay. It happens. I've got one since then. It's okay. My childhood one was lost in the pages of somewhere in the 2000s, and by 2014 I got one back. So it's okay.
I don't have any of my childhood toys. These all repurchased twice. This is my second collection. Or third, I should say, my third collection. The first was when I was a kid. Second, I sold in 2011, and this is my third vintage collection. So,
all right.
a lot of money.
All right. It's good to know. So if you've gone through a few cycles of the collection.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So Dreadnought, other than Zartan beating Superman in a wrestling match and an arm wrestling match, what did you add to the headcanon of your playtime adventures?
It's just, I'm going to steal a little bit from Paul Heyman on this. I would take all of the positives from what they would have on, the cartoon, and anything that I thought was negative, I would throw away and then insert in more positives for my figures. So, I had my version of an Alpha team, which was Footloose, Sarge, Lieutenant Falcon, and Leatherneck. And those would be my team that I'd always send into the backyard adventures, the jungles, everything else. I had my underwater adventure folks. Of course, I had my air support teams, so I would have my teams broken up into just different support categories to fight all the baddies. But I just like to pick and choose what I thought made those characters great. And then sometimes in the Joe cartoon, especially, like Bazooka was made to look like a complete and utter doofus. Quick Kick was they were like the Three Stooges, him, Alpine, and Bazooka.
Yeah.
All three of them were great figures. And, I made them great instead of being that kind of, comedic fodder.
You made them cooler. Yeah.
So I don't think you could be evil and controlling the world and be run a terrorist organization if you can't fight your way out of a paper bag. And Cobra Commander's you're describing him in particular, he has to have some sort of evil side to him. Larry Hama gave that to us in the comic books, thank goodness, so you could intertwine some of that into your baddies.
Yeah. I don't want to I'm making sure I share the time slots here, but I had a quintessential game that changed. So one of my friends changed how I played with toys as a kid, and it wasn't from cartoons, it was from Vietnam movies. Like, that was very influential because that was the war we knew as children, was Vietnam, right? Like, a lot of dads were or uncles were Vietnam vets, and we had Desert Storm hadn't really happened to the 90s, right? So I remember distinctly going to Jerry's house, and he had a cool selection of GI Joes. He didn't have any of the neon stuff, or as it was approaching, like Buddha and Repeater, he didn't buy any of those things. He just had olive drab, kind of like your A-Team there, Flint and all those. And I remember playing with them, and I was like, well, where are the bad guys? He's like, you don't need bad guys. So I'm like, what? And I just remember being in like this fugue state of like following along with like, what are we doing? And he took out the GI Joe APC. He told everyone he had I didn't know what a sergeant was back then. He had a sergeant tell everyone to get in the APC. And I was like, is this what are we doing? We got in the APC, we drove, and then we got out, and he had us like walking along, and he had the figures like turning and looking. I was like, what is this game, man? And then all of a sudden, like, a guy got shot and fell, and he looked at me. He's like, anyone who stays standing is dead. And like, I was ready to just like rock and roll it. And everyone like dropped down, and he had his hands go like this, like in the distance. I swear to God, I saw twinkle flashes when he made the sound effects, like they were rifle fire. And it was just a blank enemy. It was just carpet, but they were shooting from the bush, and our guys were shooting back at nothing. But in my head, I saw rifle fire, and I was like, this is the most cinematic game I've ever had as a kid. And I absolutely loved it. And like, we left people behind. They were dead. We had to run to the APC. The tires got shot out. We had to like, hump up a mountain. I was like, it was straight up Vietnam play. And that absolutely twisted my toy playing from then on. No more like, I'm going to fly in a Rattler and jump to the other cockpit and punch out the pilot and take controls. I was like, I have seen a new way of thinking. Like, and his name was Jerry, and his dad actually was a Vietnam vet. And I remember spending the night at his house and we watched Hamburger Hill. Totally not appropriate for a 7-year-old kid to watch that movie. But I was like, oh, I get it now. And like that was a game-changing moment for me as a kid.
It's moments like that you can't really put a price on because you remember it to this day. And how many years ago was it? You know, like
5.
Does your mother know you're streaming? So I will say though that the cartoon provided a template for the characters, right? Because like if you take the Ninja Turtles, they're 4 almost identical characters with different colored masks and different weapons. Yeah. Until you watch the cartoon, you don't know that one leads, one does machines, one's cool but rude, one's a party dude. I think I got that right in the exact order. I promise I did not rehearse that. And you had to watch, like, for example, the real Ghostbusters cartoon, or maybe the movie, maybe the Columbia movies. But in order to kind of know, like, okay, who was the smart one, who was the sarcastic one, et cetera, right? And that kind of set the template. Now, how you work around that and how you expand on that in your playtime patterns, that's kind of up to you, right? Like, you know, a lot of you go back to the G.I. Joe example. Well, I didn't even think of it, but in the early 1990s, when I brought some G.I. Joes to play over at my buddy's house, who I'm going to see next week, we're not going to play G.I. Joes. We're going to go for beers, but maybe we'll do some G.I. Joes.
Man up.
I know. Just man up. And so basically, he realized that the maggot driver, the worms driver, looked like the Rocketeer. Yeah. And he just put him on the good guy's side. We didn't have enough bad guys. We didn't army build at the time, right? And he was just like, so we're going to put Rocketeer on the G.I. Joe side. And ever since then, I haven't been able to unsee it. Now, obviously, people talk about it on Facebook and other social media outlets all the time. But in the early 90s, I didn't make the connection yet, right? So I thought that was really cool to do. And there's also certain things like, as a kid, I didn't fully understand that, like in Transformers, Optimus Prime can't just open the Matrix anytime he wants. But if I wanted to give him an advantage in playtime battle, I'd be like, "Oh, he got the Matrix. It's all good. He's going to open it and he's going to kill everybody." And it's like, wait, he can only do that in the darkest hour. You know, when Unicron's about to devour Cybertron, when the hate plague is destroying the entire universe, then he can do it. But he can't just. Well, that's just thing. He can't just be like, "Oh, Megatron, I'm pissed off at you today. Here's the Matrix." Otherwise, he would have done it every episode, and we wouldn't have a franchise right about now. So, you know, there was always that. And I know He-Man's axe appeared in the mini comics, but it didn't. Unless I'm wrong, I don't think it appeared in the cartoon. So you kind of had to make up something. Like, would he just dual wield his sword and his axe? You know, I don't know, right? Because it was mostly shown with his sword.
I think too that it's not just cartoons. If you grew up in the 80s, you had Conan, and Conan, or any of the, you know, like the mystical knights. What was the one with Mark Singer?
The King Arthur? No,
the Panther and the. Oh, why can't I think
Crawl?
of this?
No, not Crawl.
But,
Beastmaster?
Those type of movies.
Beastmasters.
Yes, thank you, Beastmaster.
Yeah.
You would see those movies, and that would help, you know, expand that play. I remember the first time I saw Top Gun, I didn't put my Sky Striker down for a month and a half.
Yes.
Because that just opened that whole window. Predator, another one where now I have to have my, you know, jungle team, and they're going to go and they're going to hunt the aliens. You know, any of those type of movies, or even TV shows, Knight Rider, Airwolf, the A-Team, they just kept expanding and expanding everything out. As silly as it sounds, MASH. That's why I got Doc, and that's why I got, you know, some of the other medical, you know, Joe figures and Cobra figures. You know, that always helped expand your creative side for play, because you would get those other shows that would inspire you to try something different.
So that's funny, because one of my notes was that Indiana Jones actually influenced how we played with G.I. Joes. So Bill and Brad were my next door neighbors, and they had the G.I. Joes and I didn't, and they lose all the guns except maybe a pistol. And Indiana Jones, there's not a lot of guns. He has a revolver, and sometimes people have guns that get knocked out of their hands, or it's like, you're coming with me, Dr. Jones. Like the gun is, a much bigger deal in that show. So that punch sound in Indiana Jones, when that Foley effect is in my brain. Like I'm pretty sure I got punched in real life, and that's what I heard instead of what actually happened, right? But when we would play, it was very Indiana Jones, like jump onto the maggot, and then like the tracks are going past and you punch the Viper, or like, they got the revolver, but it gets knocked out of your hand. Like that was more of the shaping before I met Jerry of how he played. I was like, oh, this is like Indiana Jones, right? Like, yeah, I would say, and I was so glad to hit that, movies influenced my play more than the shows did. Like that's what I was emulating. Beastmaster was spot on how I did He-Man. I wasn't allowed to watch Conan, but yeah, those sword and sorcery, sword and sandal influenced my play more than the cartoon did. Yeah.
No, fair enough. I mean,
see, I was lucky.
Yeah.
I was an only child growing up, and my dad worked third shifts, and we had HBO. And at that time, they would play movies, anytime of the day. So, Ryan always had like the movies he wasn't supposed to watch. Firefox, Heartbreak Ridge. I mean, any of those, I was just like,
yeah,
play Joe's now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, what about? So I'm just trying to share a screen here, and it's my technology is giving me grief. But did any of you ever like? I'm sure we all did it, so maybe it's a rhetorical question. But like cartoons, other than this, All Stars to the Rescue, which was this 21-minute special, right? We never really got a lot of crossover in terms of the cartoons, right? Or maybe you got this, right? But that's about it, right? Wow. Like you did have to expand your own headcanon apart from the cartoon, right? Because I remember when I watched All Stars to the Rescue, I was really into Ninja Turtles at the time, and the only turtle who showed up was Michelangelo. That's not a problem. That's not anticlimactic. At least that part isn't. But it was like a 21 or 22 minute.
The party
special.
dude is telling people not to use drugs. That's awesome.
That's the thing, right? It's like, I guess because he was the popular one at the time, I just kind of figured that it would be Leonardo and not him. But did you ever feel like? I mean, first off, I assume we all did crossover battles, right? I mean, I had 4 Ghostbusters, so I had 4 Ninja Turtles, right? They would fight, right, for whatever stupid reason. Right. And depending on what my mood at the time would depend on who would win and who would lose. Right. Usually my Ninja Turtles won because I didn't have the original, or I only had one of the original Ghostbusters and the others were all like Fright Features versions. So that's why my Ninja Turtles usually won. They matched the cartoon more. But like, what did you cross over in when you were like trying to expand the cartoon lore into your own like living room canon? James, we'll hop over to you and we'll come then Ryan, then we'll hop back to Dom because I think Dom's on a maintenance break right now.
I got really self-conscious about eating the messier of the wings, and I couldn't even watch myself eating them, so I turned off my camera. I couldn't.
It's all good.
Nolan in the chat though, Tour of Duty influenced my play. That's deep cut right there. That's a good call.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, James, like, so what did you do for crossover battles, if you did any at all?
Not really, but G.I. Joe would rarely cross over to any of the larger figures, like like Thundercats or He-Man. They wouldn't really fit very well. They wouldn't. When I was a kid, I don't think they would be in the same universe. Usually Thundercats and He-Man would be, and they're separate in Brave Star and that kind of scale. At least they were kind of like the bigger figures. But the smaller figures will always be in their universe. That's what I kind of remember. Like I was saying, my memory is kind of hazy of how I played when I was a kid. There's only tiny little flashes I remember about playing. But it definitely obviously influenced me as an adult. I can't really think of anything else, actually.
No, it's all right.
I'm a terrible guest.
Hey, if it comes back to you, it comes back to you. Don't worry
about
it.
Exactly.
I'm judging you,
like a nightmare or something,
All right.
You start a live stream just to be like, I remembered my answer.
Remember.
Yeah, all of a sudden next week he just pops it into the comment section and doesn't stop typing for paragraphs because he'll be keeping it inside for a week. Yeah. Dreadnought, what about you, buddy?
For me, it was, mixing maybe some Star Wars with some G.I. Joe, but also, like Rock Lords, or, in my opinion, the most superior robot toy line is GoBots. Sorry.
GoBots. Yeah.
Kidding. But they had some
Almost had a heart attack.
Whoa.
They had some of the bigger figures. So I would have Robot Wars with my G.I. Joe. So those would be the lines that would kind of cross over for me.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
As I started watching the Sunbow cartoons, you started to pick up on certain voice actors were voicing different characters on different shows. So that kind of helped bring in some of, if I did have a couple Transformers, Soundwave, Blaster, those would get brought into, be the Cobra BattleBots or something that my Joes would have to fight as well too. And then Terminator comes out and T-1000, this killer robot, and that just takes me down a whole different rabbit hole I want to play. So I think the crossovers did help, but I think as kids, creativity is what the magic of toys is. And it makes you use your brain to think up different scenarios, finishes, how your heroes are going to either survive or fail. And I think when you can cross over multiple toy lines, that just expands your universe to where you can be more creative. And heck, most of the time, if the more creative you are, you can bring in stuffed animals, you can bring in sectars, different things like that, where it's a new play pattern every single time.
So it's insane that you said Rock Lords, because I literally wrote down Rock Lords to remind myself, it was that spin-off imitating MOTU, right? It's like they transform into rocks. I'm like, what? But I had the red guy, and he was so menacing that he was an easy minion to pull into MOTU. That was hands down, no brainer. Right now,
are you talking about the GoBot rocks or they were rock people?
They were their own line of rocks. They had 5 villains.
He-Man rock, the He-Man rock ones. Right?
No. So He-Man had 2 heroes.
Yeah, you're thinking Stondar and Rock-On, but you're thinking the Rock Lord GoBots.
Okay, but they were just rocks, right? 100%. And that is one of those few childhood toys. So I'm gonna go on camera right now. I have a nostalgia, anti-nostalgia when I come to how I purchased my toys almost. So I'm not chasing any childhood toys. That's just me. Ken, you were shocked when I was like, I'm gonna sell I sold all my original He-Mans to buy new versions of those. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, cool. I had the red guy. Also, Wheels of Chaotic Doom. Please tell me that you have a channel, because I want to subscribe just because of your handle alone. But anyway, so there's very few things that I chase in order to I want that to recapture that. Instead, how I buy now is, this could fit in with, and I've got 3 buckets of lore in my toy collection, and fantasy is one of them. So a Rock Lord can easily be a minion. And actually, what's his name? Matt from Payne's Toy Sample sent me. We just did this on a stream, 2 Damonites from the Wildcats line. I was like, these are awesome demonic minions that I can use with Mythic Legions and MOTU right now. So I constantly am just can these things blend together? It's unhealthy because there's no there's no checklist to follow. It's whatever matches, right? So it's all over the place. So but yeah, I everyone talked G.I. Joe mixing, but one of the things, because I didn't have Joes as a kid, I actually mixed on a very small scale. Battle Beasts were freaking amazing with that tech armor and stuff. And I was like, these things are so cool. And you could sometimes find those for a dime at a garage sale, something like that. Yeah. So Battle Beast, Guts, and Muscle Men were in this small scale of you dump them in a bin, you pull them out, and you're your brain goes all over the place because there's no associated cartoons with those, right? Well, none that we had as a kid, right? Yes, Muscle Man had stuff in Japan, but that was the one where I just ran absolutely rampant with those things, because you could just, there's nothing to lean on. There's no movies or anything like that. So that's one of the ones that majorly was just anything goes down here, guys, at this little teeny scale.
Well, it sounds like you had quite the childhood there in terms of imaginative
childhood. Yeah, man.
Sky Commanders and Mask were that great crossover because they were the smaller size too. And
go ahead. Sorry.
We had a Value City by us and a Kresge, and they were the 5 and dime stores, right? Or the closeouts. So like I could get the Sky Commanders and I could get the Mask toys, and they were perfect size with one another. And it was like, this is a perfect play pattern that I could mix these lines together, because you couldn't get, every single Mask toy you wanted, but I could get a good enough mix that I could, have toys to play with.
When you mentioned Sky Commanders, I think when I appeared on the island there, I remember having one and just remember the zip line, the coolness to it. It'd be tempting if I saw one again to pick it up.
Wait, are the Sky Commanders? Okay, so those are the ones that just had the strings. What are the guys who are all purple and orange? Air Raiders? The one there was very sci-fi. Their good guys were in orange bodies. They were 5 POA. The bad guys. No, that's Mask, right? Or is that Air Raider?
That's Air. I think Air Raiders. I think
or Sky. So there was an Air Raiders where they had like the air pump was the gimmick, and you literally like pushed it along in an air pump, and they had purple and blue guys. Those are the guys that my buddy had, and another buddy had Mask, and I was like, this is awesome because you had a bunch of blank faceless troopers with Mask and like cool vehicles. Like you just sparked that in the back of my brain. Sorry for jumping in.
Well, speaking of Mask, right? I hadn't heard of it until the late 80s, and then my cousin went and bought a bunch, and he brought a whole bunch over to my place, and I just yanked out all my Transformers and GI Joes naturally because it's like, okay, you have transforming cars, I have transforming cars. Oh, there you go. You got the Raven, the Raven pilot, right?
The Raven pilot, yeah, I have no idea.
That's the Raven pilot. Yeah, I should remember his name. I had it as a kid, and I just bought it recently. But my brain is drawing a little bit of a blank. I'm sure somebody in the chat could could tell us. No, Calhoun Burns. That's who it is. Calhoun Burns. That's his name.
They did say it's Air Raiders. I'm also still laughing at Wheels of Chaotic Doom because I just saw it. It's in all caps too. Doggone it! I want to subscribe to Wheels of Chaotic Doom. Like,
yeah, Ring Raiders were another great line too.
They were, yeah.
It sounds like a band name, actually.
Yes. Stoner rock band name. Wheels of Chaotic Doom.
One of the great '80s metal bands, going up there with Anthrax and Slayer and Metallica and Megadeth, and Ring Raiders is the opening act.
Hair metal.
And Ring Raiders is the opening act.
That's where Ratface tells us. Actually, that's the name of my old band back in the day, right?
There is a band called Ratface. It's a crust punk band. I looked it up.
All right.
Who else has Ratface? And it's like this band that's been around for decades.
All right.
I didn't even know it.
Sorry.
I just made up the name. I know the idea I had with Ratface was Rat Boy from The Simpsons when Homer says, "Sup, gnawing at the drywall." Bart, and he calls him Rat Boy, and he's a rat. Bart. I don't know. That's what I had in mind.
I forgot another obscure line I tied it with Battle Beast was Army Ants. They came in a big blister pack. There was like 8 of them. There's red or the orange and the blues. And so those were like the minions of the Battle Beast. Like, that scale I think is not as represented because it's, it's not as cool as G.I. Joe. But like for a kid, for me, who didn't have G.I. Joes as a kid, and those were relatively cheap back then too. Like, compared to G.I. Joe, you get a whole full blister card with an army of them. So that micro scale was definitely something, or not micro because micro machines, but that smaller scale was definitely something blending. And Army Ants is another one. So,
well, tying that back to today, though, did the cartoons of the past affect how you display or how you collect today? So go back to Dom on this one.
Well, let James go first.
Let James go first. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. I know you're the host, Ken. I'm sorry. I'm such a bombastic guest. Well,
I put in the cartoon. The groups would always. I was always put them in groups. With the 3 amigos. Alpine, Bazooka, and Quick Kick. Yep. Right. They always used to hang out together. So I always have them beside each other all the time. That's kind of influenced how I display.
Yeah.
What about Exo Squad? Listen. So I have I'm going to do a cartoon thing next Saturday about Exo Squad. I love that show and those toys equally and separately for two different reasons. And I will dominate the airspace if we start talking about Exo Squad. We have to delete that comment from the chat. I will not shut up.
Okay, everybody, bathroom break. Everyone just go like this. All right, James and Ryan, everyone, bathroom break. Dom, you have the floor for Exo Squad soapbox. Okay. Well, I don't know. We got 2 out of 3 here. All right.
Okay, so let's talk Exo Squad then, everybody. Hey, today on Toy Domination, we're talking about one of the most underrated toys that snuck out in the late 90s and one of the most fantastic cartoon shows, Exo Squad. Is it anime? Is it American animation? No, it's a mash of both. An adult, gritty, realistic cartoon that influenced not only my play style, but also my writing style for later on in my adult life. Ken, over to you. I came up with that on the fly. That was somehow. Stop. This is weird. I feel like a complete jackass right now dominating your show. Like, this is horrible. I can hear you typing too.
That was a good job. Good job.
So if you actually want to talk Exo Squad, like that is engineering wise, those toys are fantastic. The cartoon show was episodic, but also had these singularity one-offs, so they focus on characters. It was gritty. People would die. Like, I'm actually going to talk later on about some of our favorite story arcs in there. And yeah, that definitely impacted my teenage / early 20s. No, actually, I was in high school. So yeah, teenage mind on like, that was another stepping off point. Vietnam shaped my childhood, or Vietnam movies. That one absolutely shaped my sci-fi, because I was like, Star Wars is lame. I hate Jedis. Like, I don't like the ninjas, but Exo Squad was like, and Star Trek is stale and dry, but Exo Squad was these ace pilots, gritty. You love the villains. Like, oh man,
it'd be tempting to go back and rewatch the cartoons.
Yeah, I barely remember Exo Squad.
So Peacock, if you have, it's free. You can watch all the shows on Peacock right now, so you can just go on there and check them out.
Sorry, I'm hulking up red because I would have Peacock Network for WWE Network, but in Canada they haven't jumped from Peacock to from WWE Network to Peacock yet. We still have plain old WWE Network. If I had Peacock, I could watch Exo Squad, but I know someone who does have Peacock Network.
Yeah, man.
And his name is Ryan Sweeney from the Toy Collectors.
Yeah, they're all there.
But yes, I have the cock.
To go back to the original question was, how do you display based on the cartoon show? Like, nope. And again, like it's because of how I collect to play. So everything that gets filtered in is put into 3 different buckets of, like, we have a fantasy line, MOTU, Mythic Legions. I've got Yusakio Jumbo. He's not Turtles. He fits in with the Mythic Legion stuff, right? Because he's an awesome. I always impose Samurai Jack on him. So you want to talk about modern cartoons influencing Yusakio Jumbo? I can't hear or read him without hearing Samurai Jack's voice from the cartoon show. But yeah, and then all my 4-inch scale sci-fi stuff is on a ship that is my own lore, and like I'm starting to do more videos. Like, this is my lore and how I bucket those things. So the answer, no, that's you know.
Okay, fair enough. Ryan, what about you, buddy? You display?
And no, my Dreadnought. Absolutely. They live in a swamp back on my shelf, like over there. Yeah. So, and that's all off of the cartoon. But the cartoon just helped me develop the love of certain brands. And it's the memories of growing up. It's the memories of spending times with my friends, playing. As stupid as this sounds, I'm a man in his mid-40s, so I was born in 1976. So, 80 to, 90, that was my sweet spot. I learned how to be a leader from Optimus Prime. I learned how to be a leader from Duke. I learned how to be a leader from Hawk.
That's awesome.
That's how I learned what good people are. And I think it's not so much just how I display my figures, it's which characters that I put in my favorite places that I can look at, that I have the most connection with. So maybe not so much, putting Bazooka, Alpine, and Quick Kick together, but there's certain characters from those cartoons, from the comic books, that I really gravitate towards or aspire to be more like. that I'll put in a place of honor.
They're archetypes that you can lean towards as touchstones. Like that's a cool. There's several fiction novels that I have on my bookshelves, non-comic related, that are the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, Once an Eagle. That is how you define leadership through maturing and different echelons of command. Like that's a really cool perspective, Ryan. And I love your Dreadnoks display. And like your last video, how you put the Marvel Legends figure that I passed on, and she's like, this is Zartan's girlfriend or wife. I was like, that is genius to add into that canon. I was like, I actually went and looked for that figure on Google for that same, or Amazon for that same reason. I was
and
like,
you used Rhea Ripley,
cool
and you used Rhea Ripley as Zanya, which is perfect.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was such a cool blend, Ryan. Sorry, I wanted to give that a plug. I really love that imagination of like, hey, these are Dreadnoks, but I'm adding more to it. That was really cool.
That expansion of lore is what's making today's display patterns / play patterns a little bit better too, because like you look at people ask about the HasLab Sky Striker in the chat. You get a Night Force Ripcord, you get a Flight Suit Scarlet, you get a landing deck Cobra, like there's all this extra. You got the Rio, the intercept officer of what's his name, Wayne Ruthell. Like you now have that there, right? And maybe sometime they will circle back and bring in Zanya into the O-Ring line. Yes, I know they made her in the 25th anniversary line, but people right now are ready for that expansion of lore. Like, the cartoons were one thing, but the comics also added a lot and could also help your play patterns a little bit here and there. Like we had, I think, TJC type Reckon Rule in the chat as a reference to the Transformers Wreckers sub-team that never really took off in the US and Canada. It was a big deal in the UK, and then all of a sudden now it's making its way into the comics over the last 15 or so years. And all this expansion of lore, like, yes, I want this to be a cartoon talk, but that's just the base of what we know and love. You can expand that so many different ways, from your own headcanon to official canon, the toy canon that only has bios without any other media behind it. There's just so much out there.
That's why I like. So first of all, I offended Quip in the toy line in the comments here. Hey, I actually really like Star Trek now. I've actually gone back and started watching Deep Space Nine, but I'm always a Babylon 5 guy first.
Quip is cool. I think he's just busting your chops. I talked to him on Discord here and there. He's cool.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So did you thumb down Babylon 5?
Yeah.
That was another influence.
I'm a total Trekkie, man. Like,
so I have. This is so sidebar, Ken. I'm sorry. I have recanted on my appreciation for Star Trek, and have gone back and like the morals and the ethics and the themes they pull on. I was like, man, I was a dummy as a kid. But much like Exo Squad, Babylon 5 had this bigger story arc and cool dog fights. Like that is what pulled me in and shaped even now my imaginative play is more steered towards those. And like Exo Squad had an episode where, man, here we are, but this is cartoons. I'm on subject, Ken. Okay, quit busting my balls. Exo Squad had this cartoon where Admiral Winfield, it's the invasion of Venus. They're sitting up in the bridge and they are orbitally bombarding the Neo Sapiens on Venus, and you're just watching them. They're like, their uniforms are tattered. They're in file columns. They're retreating, and they're just getting blasted from space. And then the suits come in and strafe them. I was like, this is like what it was for the Germans retreating in World War II. This leans into reality. Yeah. This is so good. And like, it changed that cartoon. I go back at the beginning of the show. I am wrong. It didn't change how I was as a kid. It changed how I am as an adult and how I see things.
Yeah. Well, you're also in the military. You're also in the military, right?
So this was pre-military. So to be fair, and maybe my inclinations, because I'm in the military, lean that way now. And maybe that's what's appealing by it. But like, I think we all wanted to join the army when we played with G.I. Joes as kids. Right?
Yeah.
We all were like, we get to shoot guns and beat up Vipers. Like, no, you get to do PowerPoint and, clean up motor pools.
Yeah, you were telling me about that the other day. What you're doing for work.
Yeah. Someone was like, can you tell me what you do? I'm like, yes, but it would bore you to tears. So yeah, that absolutely changed my synapses of like, how to play is like, oh, you could have these, like the invasion of Venus and like some other quintessential episodes. And how do I display my collection? Sadly, is this is my Exo Squad here. And then hold on, here's another one here. So I got these are all my Exo Squads here, and then I've got two hangers that are actually displayed with the suits in bays, which I can't like run over and show on the big ship. So because the boys and I play, and let's be honest, if my boys are here, I'd still be playing. I can't keep fixing stuff into shelves and rearranging the missiles all the time. It's absolutely agonizing. So I'm like, all right, dump out a bin. Here we go. Let's put these suits, and you guys have this and this and this. And then you pick it all up and put it in your toy box just like as a kid. So my display is still geared towards play, sadly. So.
Hey, Exo Squad was great. It will always be great. The whole concept of the Neo Sapiens and everything. I never got to give it too much of a chance as a kid. It's one of those things I mean to look back to. We all talk about Babylon 5, Star Trek, and all that. Yes, I would watch Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. There was always a program that came after it in the afternoon, so I'd always catch like the last 5 minutes or so, and it was always that series I kept wanting to circle back to as an adult and rewatch. But when the time came to circle back, another sci-fi show had kind of taken over my life, and it was called Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yes,
from 2003. Yes. I watched that later. Like I was trying to go back to the sci-fi shows, and Battlestar Galactica was already over by that point. But I went back and rewatched that, and that ate up all my sci-fi bandwidth. That I could not go back to watch something that's a little too dated now.
It is very dated,
right?
Hands down, biased. But you have to stop at season 3. After season 3, stop at Battlestar.
Sorry.
It gets
okay, yes. It does get a little weird. Yeah. You may want to just finish it if you're attached to the characters already. Yeah. But like, for example, something like Star Wars, the story does not date at all. And the acting does not date at all, even though if you can tell that the screen quality wasn't what it eventually became, and the special effects evolved, but the actors allow it to be timeless, right?
Yeah. No, you're hands down. Yeah.
That's one thing I think that I'm the easiest person in watching anything. Like I don't look at something as dating. Like, oh, it just, it doesn't work now. Of course it doesn't work now because it wasn't filmed now. It was filmed back then. If I watch Star Wars now, I think the special effects are not what they are today, but back then they were freaking awesome. And somebody built those out of models.
Oh no! So I think he means like acting and story wise. I think that's what he was.
Yeah, that's what I was framing it as. Is like
like Battlestar Galactica. So I'm old, Ken. So I remember Battlestar Galactica on ABC. Okay, with Lauren Green and the original, and seeing the new one come out. They're two different, but I can go back and watch the original Battlestar, and yes, it's cheesy, but it's a fun show to watch.
So, and that's why now having zero attachment to next gen I see the comments like Deep Space Nine, no attachment. I go back now on Hulu and I watch those, and I'm like, dang it! Like they said in the comments too. The stories and like the ethical conflicts, like and Orville does a pretty good job of that. The new Seth MacFarlane show, they capture that same vein, and it's updated with acting and dialogue. But I still appreciate and having no nostalgic ties to those old shows because you're right, there's a quality at its bones right there, right? So like, and I haven't watched the old Battlestar, but I have heard the same thing. It has good bones in the storytelling, and that stands up.
Well, look, so many people prefer the OG Battlestar Galactica over the reimagined series. Maybe I'm a little spoiled.
I thought they're both great. That's the point. It's just a different way of telling the story, and sometimes just having that little bit of a different way of telling the story. It's just as a consumer of entertainment. If it makes me not have to think about real world for a little bit and just fall into this world and enjoy it, then they've won. They've done what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, Ryan, I think that's James. I'm sorry, you're dying to talk here. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No, yeah, I agree with Ryan. Like you could escape into fantasy, as they say, right? And I watch Star Trek every night.
Oh,
Deep
nice.
Space Nine, Voyager, and Next Gen. I've been continuously watching that for probably 10 years. So I continuously watch them all. I watch a couple episodes before I go to sleep. So I rewatched it over and over again. So it's always fresh in my mind. And I never watched Battlestar Galactica. That thumbs down doesn't mean that I don't like it. I just never watched it, and I'm just a giant Trekkie, right? And what's really cool is the new The new Star Trek
Discovery.
Picard was good.
Oh,
and what I really like is the cartoon there. Oh, geez, I can't even remember it.
Below Deck, right? Ryan said it, right? Below Deck.
Yeah, the Lower Decks. Yeah, that's really good.
I want to see that. Oh, no. Hey, so we're back on topic. Cartoons. We circled back.
Lower Deck, full circle.
Yeah. Ryan, I 100% agree with the sentiment of, and this is, it's almost like an individualized experience. And I also, I resist against people who are closed-minded with like, they don't make them like this anymore. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of better stuff actually. You're like O-Ring. I'm going to go on take a hot take here. O-Ring is not a good toy design, not a good engineering design. There are so many better engineers that make better toys now. But you're right, Ryan. It is the fact that you can appreciate something old and something new without sacrificing that old nostalgia. Like, I like old and I like new, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that is the healthy balance that I find a lot of G.I. Joe fans, I'll pick on them, do not have that healthy balance. They're very much like, where's my neck beard, for God's sakes? Like, oh, this isn't my Duke. And like, they just lash out. I'm like, hey, man, it's 2023. Like, you're allowed to have a new rendition of the same old thing with a new twist. It's innovative. It's imaginative. Like, it's adding freshness to this. But Ryan, I think that is, and we've talked about this in depth before, Ryan, so I don't want to steer off from that, but that is the right mindset. It's like, I have old and new, and I can love them both equally. I have two kids.
I do that a lot in my videos. I always compare the new classified and the old, 3 3/4 Joe all the time. If I have it, I'm gonna compare it, definitely. And that's,
but just because you have something new, it doesn't mean it's replacing something old.
That's right.
No, it's
right.
Completely different. Yeah,
it's still there, but there's a lot of people that you see, on YouTube and Facebook. They get like, that's not my. Well, yeah, that's fine.
Yes,
it's not yours. Then enjoy yours.
I'm hoping. Here's my hope: is that I just did a stream with Eric from No You Grow Up. If you want to talk about TMNT, go see Eric No You Grow Up's channel. Really good guy. But I feel like. And I don't want to throw shade. I feel like channels like ours, people like you guys who are generally like good dudes, right? James, I just met you, but like, so I can't totally judge, right? But I feel you're in a bucket of good dude. Ken and Ryan, good dudes, right? I hope that attitude begins to spread more than these big channels or other channels that are more like, this new Storm Shadow. I'm just like, why are you getting so upset about this? Like, that's not mine. I'm like, yeah, but like, I think that's more toxic. And I really appreciate streaming with people like you guys because of that open-mindedness and the appreciation of almost an unbiased, like, hey, this is a good toy. And I still have my cool toy too. Like that's chef's kiss. So.
Reinvention is.
Yeah.
With G.I. Joe especially, depending on when you were born and depending on when you came into that line, those figures weren't always available for you.
Look at this. It might be G.I. Joe book right there.
Plett or Duke, is your first, into the line. It might be that Snake Eyes version 2 or Storm Shadow version 2. That's what the ones you found as a kid, and that's the one that you fell in love with. That doesn't mean that mine is better than yours because I was there, since the start. They're toys. Right.
No. Don't take away from that. So that would be a caveat, is that your hobby is your hobby. Like that is sink or sink. Like I don't think we should take away because they're toys, but I think it's the negativity of like the energy. Like, why are you wasting that energy on being negative? Like, they're toys. Like, my collection is dear to me, and I won't let thanks to a toy shame video I did with Zazel and Adam, I am like not letting anyone take that away from me. So I don't think we should downplay what our passion is. Yeah. But you're right. There is perspective to be added, Ryan. Ryan, I always appreciate your voice, by the way. Go ahead.
I don't want it to be that I'm going to come at you like you're in back to G.I. Joe's classified, right? And for me, that's my jam right now.
Me too.
I'm not going to hate on somebody because they collect O-Ring. I'm not going to hate on them because they collect Modern. I'm not going to hate on them because they like Sigma 6, right?
Oh yeah.
I was huge into Sigma 6 back then. Yeah,
they're so cool. Yeah,
I sold them all in 2011. Like I was saying, like that was my jam. Anytime I would see it, I would buy it. Anything G.I. Joe, and I still do that right now. Anything G.I. Joe, it's mine. Buy. Like just an addict of G.I. Joe. Yeah.
That's the point. It's even if the 1/6 scale Joe stuff, like Ken, he was looking at the Green Beret and he's like, man, I would like to pick that up. For Joe collectors,
it's in that book,
we covered that
1966 Green Beret. I really, really want one.
Yeah.
The last one I saw was like 400 Canadian. I was like, that's like 300 US. I'm sitting there. I'm like, do I get it? Do I not? And I'm like, okay, I'll buy some Thundercats instead.
Yeah. Save your money.
They're all Joes, and nobody should poop on somebody else's love of it just because they're upset, because I don't know why you're upset. Like, why are you mad?
Yeah. And for me, so again, like I will shape my biases when I buy toys. I'm looking at like the storytelling piece of it too. Like, oh, what can I use this toy for? And there is, like Usagi Jumbo, like I 100% just absolutely adore this character and the comics and like everything. So there is that character piece of it too. But when I see like Sigma 6, I saw those designs, and at first, this was when I was like, what was that? Gosh, that was almost 20 years ago, like 15 years ago. I was like, ew, gross. But then my buddy was like, no, man, look, that bat's cool. And like, I love the stylization. As he started describing it, I was like, ah, crap, that's a really cool toy line. No, I don't have the money. Then it came to money, you know what I mean? But you're right. I went into that with like, oh, this isn't Flint. This isn't Tuttle Rat. And then as he was describing, I was like, oh, man, you're right. That's a really cool new take on that stuff. So
Spy Troops was another big thing that I was into back in the day. Bought every spy troop I could find, and I barely found them, but I had a good amount, The Spy Troops were pretty cool.
Spy Troops. When I look back at this, because I have a bunch of those now, when I look back at Spy Troops figure, I'm like, this is the best I could get then? Like, this is all, like, this is what you're offering me?
Yeah.
Because that was like that weird transition before they got to 25th, you know what I mean? And like, they were trying to figure it out. But you're right. The Sand Viper is one of my favorite Sand Vipers of that line. I have like an army of those. They are so cool and off the charts. Yeah.
I never opened them up. That's when I bought them, I just left them on card, put them on the wall, and that was it.
I gotta open toys.
Yeah. I know. I'm
don't
like
want to buy them anymore.
trying to open stuff right now, but like, yeah, I'll hold off a bit for the right time. I don't want to rush through opening it and not take in the experience.
I have some of these in box.
I was just gonna say Valaverse is a perfect example of I know nothing about that IP. I know nothing about the old comics or anything like that. And I bought a figure because everyone was talking about it. I was like, well, let me buy one of these. I'm like, holy crap, this is a great toy. And in me, my brain was like, you are now. And it just shifted off. Like Kryvak is amazing as like a Dreadnought or a Spider-Man thug. I like Valaverse for me jumped up above G.I. Joe Classified only because of the imagination capacity. There was no baggage of like, oh, well, that's Flint. And of course, like, nope, gone. I have a brand new buck of the Swarm guys that I can use for aim. Like, Valaverse just absolutely,
Well, James is your guy for
I watch his stuff. It's good. Yeah.
No, I'm just telling everyone else in the chat as well that James is your guy for that. So
Kryvak is indeed his Payne.
Kryvak is pretty dope figure for sure. And there's movies coming out soon too. So I'm excited for those Action Force movies whenever they're going to come out.
Ken, I feel bad because I think I pulled that string to go off in this tangent, but I think that I'm circling way back to the beginning. It sounds like it wasn't cartoons as much that influenced our play. It was movies and other, like somebody brought up Top Gun. Like I never put down my Sky-Striker. Like I wonder if that's us like-minded kids, like movies and adult stuff influence us more, or we're the niche, or if the cartoons were just not really able to deliver on what we wanted. Like if we saw movies and we're emulating that, did the cartoons just not deliver, or did our brains just want more and plus and minus?
Well, that's why the question was asked, because it wasn't just us who went to the movies and other forms of media. The whole chat went into movies and other forms of media. That's why the question's asked. Like you noticed I sat back for the last 20-25 minutes and let everyone talk and monitor the chat, because I realized one thing about these TKO streams. When I first started, I kept them very structured. Somebody mentioned Ryan Dole in the chat on Toy Anxiety. Every Tuesday night, he and the 3 other co-hosts, they just turn on the camera and they just get along so well, chemistry-wise and everything. Yes, they have a topic, but if they deviate from the topic, so be it. They're just having fun, and keeping it too structured might almost take away from the fun a little bit. That's why I didn't ask too many questions, and I was willing to even let some of the questions pass, because it's like, you know, and Toy Anxiety gets so many views every single week. Their views are in the thousands every single week. And it's 4 people hanging out with great chemistry, showing their hauls, you know, saying what they did throughout the week, and then commenting in general about toys, and they talk a little bit about news. And I'm like, if that formula works, I think that's what people actually like, rather than this sort of panel interview. I'll still do them, but you know,
the thumbnail showed 80s cartoons, but I think all of us deviated to movies. But maybe that's where that conversation needed to go, is what I'm saying, right? Like, and then sci-fi and all these other influences really impacted. Like, I like, that was kind of my thing was like, I think that's where it started for us to buy the toys. But it seems like from the conversation that other things adult stuff influenced how we play.
It's kind of like sorry, I was going to say, like,
no. You go ahead, please.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say that, you know, we're a product of the time, right? So we're following trends, so that would influence our way we play, right? Depending on what movie we watched, or the movie that we rewatch over and over, like Ghostbusters and, you know, Spaceballs. Man, I was Spaceballs fan. So that would definitely influence the way we play. You know, it all depends what's new and what's on TV. That would, you know, short attention span. You know, watch the TV show, play, and try to mimic maybe sometimes what we would watch or what movie we watch, and then but that's I was going to say that.
So, 2 things happened in the 80s. I think that affected all of this and brought movies into it. The first was the expansion of cable television.
Yes.
2 more homes. You know, you went from having 3 to 4 channels to now I have 50 channels, and you had movie channels. So you didn't have to go to the movies to watch, you know, the movies. The other thing was a VCR.
Yes.
Or a beta player. So then you had, you know, video stores where you could go and you could rent the cartoons or the movies from.
Yeah.
So we went from having a very structured TV schedule. This is what's on when it's on, and if you missed it, you missed it. To you can now watch this movie channel, and they're going to play movies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or I can go to, you know, Blockbuster or Michigan Video or whatever the video store you went to, and you could go and rent videos of those movies that you wanted to see. And I think that's what really fed that, you know, where we're at today, especially with the nostalgia, because, you know, I hate to say it, but in the 80s, we kind of created this monster that we have today.
There's a monster we like.
There's a comment in the chat from First Last. This is my all-time favorite, and first G.I. Joe's Airtight. So after I was enlisted, so I was enlisted first in the military when I was right out of high school, and then I went to college and joined as an officer. I've never said that on any stream before, or ever on even my own channel. But my first job as an Army officer was in the Chemical Corps, and I absolutely hated it. But my buddy, who was still enlisted, was like, he sent me an Airtight figure, and I was like, I hate you. Like, you're that guy now in the Joe team, and I was like, oh my god, like it just rubbed it in even worse. Like, so yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So Ken, what? Just I don't know if you're wrapping this up or not, too, but modern storytelling is how I like look at, like, just like Ryan said, like, hey, old shows still have good storytelling. There's black and white movies and shows that I still watch now because it's such good character and storytelling. And that's why a lot of cartoons now, like I'm like carrying this championing flag of modern cartoons for some reason, but like there's so much good animation out right now where I'm like, oh my, like Avatar, The Last Airbender is probably one of my absolute top cartoons because of how deep it is, an emotional connection to the show, characters, art, like all that stuff. It just resonates. And like, that's one of the things that stands the test of time, not nostalgia bias to it. But when you do have something that's well written, like these other shows they influence, it just spins our imaginative brains, like whether it's Battlestar or anything else. And you're like, or Predator. I remember playing Predator too. Like it just spins those brains and you get these awesome models in your hands to be able to recreate that. Like it's just this awesome combination that for me, being a weirdo, still creates modern memories or modern emotional attachments to stuff. Like, and that's just, I think that's just imagination at its core. And like, that's just phenomenal.
100%. Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
I wanted to ask one question because in my old man mind, I always thought that the Joes, Transformers, He-Man, they had a more mature storylines to them than, let's say, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, even Power Rangers, and even some of the cartoons of today. You know, I think of what was it? The Traitor with Dusty, or At the World's End, you know, with the Joe team
Worlds Without End.
And you know, even with Transformers the movie where Optimus dies, you know, they always had a little bit more of a mature spin to them. Gosh, no, I gotta think of it. Lowlight, when he was talking about why he can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
You know, see what kind of backstory he had. You're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I wonder how much does that affect, like, Dom, you like more modern anime, which has a little bit more of a mature feel to it.
Yeah.
Do you think that might have tied into some of that stuff now? Or do you think we might have had a little bit more mature cartoons as kids in the 80s, and in the 90s they kind of dialed it back?
So
90s had Batman animated and X-Men
and Gargoyles
and Gargoyles and Exo Squad and Beast Wars. So
Brian, that is a great perspective that I don't. So here's my bias, like straight up my bias. When you say G.I. Joe, I don't remember those pieces except for Arise Serpentis Arise. That still, as an adult, I'm like, this is good. For me and my bias, I look to like the pyramid where the balloons come down, or like the Transformers where they're using the baseball cannon to shoot at each other. And I'm like, what? So I will say that I want you to like, hey, Dom, go watch these episodes so I could see those references, because you're right, they are there, but I have misshapen and replaced them. So please, like, send those my way, because I would.
Worlds Without End is a must-watch two-parter for G.I. Joe. Absolute must-watch.
Okay.
What's the episode with Shipwreck where he goes into this virtual world?
Oh no,
there's no place.
There's
no place like Springfield.
No, that's horrible. That gave me nightmares. People melting on screen, like, still to this day. No,
but it gave depth to Shipwreck, who was comedic and a goofy character.
Why was that guy on
the Matrix? You know?
Yeah.
Right. Prior to that, we wondered why was he in G.I. Joe. I love that. I love that two-parter.
That was great. Right. Huge influence. Scared the crap out of me, man.
It did. It was so. I remember seeing that in a doctor's waiting room, being like, "Oh!" Like it was a two-parter, so it never ended. I'm like, why? Yeah. Oof.
This is great.
Well, look, this has been a fantastic conversation. Like, we don't have to wrap it up that soon, but you know, if anyone's got dinner plans or whatever, you let me know. I went in a bit more casual than usual on this one. You're right. You've been munching on your dinner already. So what am I talking about? I came from a late lunch earlier on, and I'm on the West Coast, so meh to that.
Same.
Right. But yeah, I mean, we can keep the conversation going, but why don't we ask, what's everyone working on? Like, James, I'll jump over to you. What are you working on for your channel?
Monday, the ladies of Action Force are going to show up Monday, so I'm planning to do reviews each figure in great detail. Each figure, do a kit bash of Pandora video. I've been thinking of doing a Night Raven restoration / assembly. I recently got the rest of the parts for my Night Raven, and I would like to put that together, clean it up, see what I'm maybe missing, do some research before I even, of course, start. Of course, the logistics portion of it is such a massive vehicle. I don't know how I'm going to put it on camera. You know, I got a tripod, and I'll just like try to figure out how to keep it all on camera while I put it together. Yeah, that's about it.
That's all right.
A lot of work.
It's all good.
I'm starting a new job soon, so I'm going to be really busy with my new job, working from home and whatnot. So hopefully I don't go crazy. working from home.
I'm already crazy. It's okay. Just join the land of the crazies.
I haven't cut my hair in 3 years, so you know.
Ryan, I know you just dropped a bunch of classified themed videos and some updates on some shipping of some of the Kickstarter campaigns, but what's coming up for you on the island?
Actually, I'm hoping to drop a video tomorrow. I got an order in from Gridiron, just some regular pew-pews and some other stuff. I just kind of want to go through them. I had some folks ask about different things from Gridiron, so want to cover those. And then I just want to also talk, you know, some folks, you can spend a pretty penny at Gridiron. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And that prices some folks out. But, you know, looking at like Mark II toys for a good place to get, you know, weapons from, because he has those kits. But also Marauder Gunrunners is coming out with those 6-inch weapons. And since they are making the 6-inch figures for Skeletron, we should probably start seeing some of those bucks as well, too. So, you know, just kind of touching base on those, you know, just some of the other.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Still want to get those.
I slept in these. I had no idea what these were until people got them in hand. I was like, "What?"
Oh, these ones, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I got them too, guys.
I forgot because my buddy just lent them to me to do a video, so I'm going to do a video of these.
Oh wow, cool.
These are cool.
So.
Adds to the Red Shadows lore. So
when Skeletron releases out, when they start putting out the Robo Skulls, keep an eye out their store. They'll probably be putting some more out so you can pick them up. Get 3 of them for, I think it was like $15. And
oh wow, that's cool. Yeah.
But
I've seen people pop the heads off and put them on a Marauder's buck too.
Yeah, they're Marauder's heads. That's where they came from.
Oh.
So they do pop off. The legs and everything are just on little ball joints. So they're cool. And of course, if we ever get those giant Robo Skulls,
those are cool.
This summer, apparently August, I'm thinking, is what I heard.
Thanks,
right?
guys.
So thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll be covering. Just some new, you know, pew-pews, Etsy stores that you can go and check out too if you're looking to customize your figures. So just one place.
So Ryan, you usually come on and plug Gridiron Studios on my channel. And I love that refresh. You're right. It is more expensive, but I gotta say, it's worth the money. You know what I mean? Like it's always worth the value of what you're getting there too. That's one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's a steep price, but definitely worth it. I just, with my budget, I can only get maybe 1 or 2 every now and then. But yeah, like in fact, my Doom Marine here has got the pulse rifle from Aliens. So like from Gridiron Studios. Yeah, really cool.
And they use, you know, resin printing for the stuff that they do. And, you know, Mark and his boys both work there. And, you know, Quaid designs a lot of this stuff because it is that resin printer and it's those like, you know, 4K, 8K printers. The details they can get on those resin printing are just absolutely absurd.
They're also not brittle at all. Like sometimes I'll buy a third party. I'm like, crap, that's shattered when I played with it, but they are not brittle. They're sturdy. They're playable. Yeah, they're really good, man. So,
but you know, imagine where it's going to be in 5 years. You know, we probably won't buy action figures. We'll all have these 3D printers, and you'll download a file like you do for the PlayStation 5 now, and you'll print your action figure off. You know, and that's what you'll do.
Yeah, there would be no physical object to buy. You'll just buy a file, print it out.
Yeah.
In color with deco.
Everything.
We got to do it on our own.
Paint, everything will be all done. It would.
In 5 years, the computers will replace our brains, and we'll all be like Wally, floating around fat, just changing our suits from red to blue. It'd be great. It'd be awesome. I can't wait. So
they have created a 3D printer that actually can print, you know, like you'll see for the face scans and stuff for a lot of the action figures. Those will be available for home use probably in a couple of years.
Yeah, nice.
Definitely. I'm gonna wait till the price drops though before I buy.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got going on, Dom, for your channel?
First, I'm gonna definitely go check out James's female figures because I have 2 on pre-order. I haven't got it from Big Bad, so I'm excited to see those. And then Ryan, I always love checking those Gridiron kits out, man. I watch them with kind of like a little bit of envy, like, that's what that would be, but I gotta go buy some more other toys. So So we're doing two things this next Saturday. We're actually doing a cartoon discussion, and Exo Squad is going to be one of them because it's my favorite 90s cartoon. It's not my favorite modern cartoon, it's favorite 90s. And then Joe is covering Batman, and we're going to cross stream with some other channels, and they're going to talk other 80s stuff too. So that's really fun. But the channel itself is, I'm actually doing, for people who don't know, I'm pushing more of my own lore because I wrote a book and I'm trying to write a second one. So it's very sci-fi. So I'm pushing lore videos that are steered towards that content. And then I also finished the beta test for a 1/18 scale war game. And Steven and Brian, who were in the chat here earlier, helping me play test that again. And I'm just going to start pushing that out as content. Like, hey, here was the game. I'm going to set stuff up in the yard and actually recreate what we did virtually. And that's how nerdy and what my buying goes towards. Is like, I'm going to make a fake army, recreate it, put it out in the yard, and here's some rules to be able to play with it. And by the way, here's a story. So that's my brain. Like, I'm a weird collector, I guess.
We're all weird in our own ways.
Yeah.
So it's not
weird in a good way, an eccentric good way.
There we go.
You're an inspiration.
So when people
Play
say
with
that,
your toys.
you've said that before too. When people say that, I always first of all, my reaction is like, you liar, because that's so incredible that you would say that. And when people say that, I'm like, there's no way I ever thought I would be called that. But I take that to heart because of you saying it. It's not just fluff, you know what I mean? So I don't believe you because that's just so cool.
The first time I watched G.I. Joe and you watch grown adult men, they're not ashamed to play with their toys. They make some of the best play motion videos, bar none, out of anything.
I don't know if anyone came before them, but they allowed us to be able to express that way. 100%, I will credit them. Tip of the hat. They allowed adults to make pew pew noises with their mouths and move the action figures in the backyard and make silly voices. And they do a good job of it. I'm not downplaying it, but they allowed us
and all the music and everything.
Yeah,
and the editing.
I'm like, oh, we can actually do that now. And a milestone channel. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, let's be honest. How many people will watch somebody transforming a transformer and they don't go? We all do it. We all make that sound because of that cartoon.
I do that when I get up from bed every morning. I go
Pictures himself as Soundwave.
Yeah, that's who I would picture. Yes.
Anybody remember the Pretender Transformers? The ones that would open up and there was in kindergarten. The way I did it was I would wear a sweater. And if I took my sweater off, I was the inner robot. If I left my sweater on, I was the outer robot. And I tried to introduce that to other people in the class. There you go. You got Skullgrin, right? And I tried to introduce that to other people in the class. And the guy held up his shirt. He's like, I don't have an undershirt like you can. If I take my shirt off, I'm going to have no, I'm going to be naked running around the class. I'm like, okay, there goes that idea. So, that's something I remember to this day.
It's so demonic though.
But he's cool.
Such a pivot. Yeah. I have a Transformers friend who's an elitist, and he just craps all over that line. So yeah.
Yep. It is just a shell, but the sculpt work on this is nuts. Just the skull on his belt.
That's amazing. I was the kid that would take, the Tupperware dish and put my Han Solo in it with water and then freeze him in my freezer. And then we played Carbonite, and I would have to thaw him out, or, you got a bath because we didn't have a shower. So I would drag, this big container of toys and, you'd play until your mom's like, get out, you're a prune. So, toys are just awesome to play with. It doesn't matter.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't know. I mean, anything else anybody needs to shamelessly plug before we call it a week?
Ken, what's your channel up to?
Well, I just released the LJN history of
that's a good video. Wow. Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Those wrestling videos hit the algorithm really weirdly. And I know the algorithm stuff is more backstage. It's not really stuff that's make for the most interesting content. But the one before this, not this one, was dead in the water for the first 48 hours. Nobody viewed it. And then all of a sudden in a week, it got 2,000 views. I'm like, what? And then it's petered off again. So I wasn't sure what's going to happen with this one. Wrestling seems to be a different crowd to an extent. Like everyone goes, I remember Hogan, I remember Macho Man, I remember Steve Austin, and that's it. They don't really look at it collectively in the same way as the other toys. I do, but Ryan does, partly because of his son, right? But not everyone does, right? And Gazz, thank you again. Joe Berg. Actually, the last time you were on the channel, Dom, Paul from Joe Berg was here.
Do you want to know a funny backstory behind that?
Yeah.
So you had 2 channels on, Paul from Joburg, who I've never visually seen before. I only see the other guy who's always on there. Steve, thanks. And you had another guest, and the guest came on.
Chris.
Chris. So Chris came on. I was like, hey, man, before the show starts, I just want to let you know, like, G.I. Joe Berg, like, this is what you guys did. Like, it's inspiration, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, that's cool, man. But I'm not G.I. Joe Berg. And
yeah,
I like sat there
he thought chasing 80s toys was G.I. Joe Berg.
I thought
but we did that before we hit record. And then Paul came in. And I'm like, Paul, Dom, rewind. Let's go.
Yeah. So I just looked at Chris for a second. I was like, all right, well, that was a good rehearsal. Thanks, man. I wanted to practice on somebody before he came in. So appreciate it. And then he laughed and I laughed, but I died inside. So yeah, that was good.
I know that was a bit disheartening for you, but I was like, I get why you would make the mistake though, right? Because Chris is always on camera.
People, I don't know.
Right?
I'm such an ignorant YouTube channeler. I don't like someone
don't worry about it.
Analog Toys, and I was like, who? I'm just in a box, man. Like
yeah. Well, he's an expert on this 60s Joe stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Anyway,
Chris from Chris Miwa, he did a lot of work with the Joburg guys a few years ago. So they were all, intertwined so don't feel bad for making that mistake.
Still a really cool dude. I really liked meeting that guy, like cool dude. So, but yeah, the embarrassing moment.
And he's all about the fun. And so are you. And so are all the rest of us. Look, anyway, next week will be, I've got the house to myself, from Tuesday onwards for about 10 or 11 days. So you'll see multiple TKOs next weekend, maybe even a midweek one. I'm not sure. We'll see. And I don't know which pre-produced video I'm going to drop next. I've got a gridiron one queued up and ready to go.
Cool.
I'm just going to see when that drops, and I'll probably continue some history videos. If the Sky Striker drops, I'm tempted to set up the flag.
Ooh, nice.
And put it on there and put the carded figures on there and do something of a video, but I don't know how I would do it. If the family's out of town, I might pull the Terrordrome out of storage and give that a look, but then that video would take a while, so it's not like it's going to drop in the next couple of weeks or anything. So a lot of stuff is in flux, but the content will continue to get released, whether it's a live stream or whether or not it's a pre-produced video.
Do you have the old Sky Striker?
Not anymore.
No?
I decided not to keep the old one, but I decided.
Really would like to see a comparison video. I'm pretty sure they're going to be flooded.
There will be some.
The comparison videos with the new Sky Striker with the old one, and I'm kind of curious what that would look like. The differences. That's the big thing I'm looking at.
Can I just ask? Get the flag out and you get the new Sky Striker. You take 10 minutes and you play the opening scene from Top Gun, and you embrace the 8-year-old inner Ken in you, and you fly your Sky Striker around. You do your inverted maneuver and give Wild Weasel the bird.
With Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone playing the whole time. Well, gentlemen, thank you all for sitting in on this panel and embracing this topic / snowball of other topics that we jumped into that I had a great time with. Now, everyone's channel is in the description below. Just make sure you give everyone a follow and a subscribe. I guarantee you won't regret it. I certainly haven't. And otherwise, let's I don't know what everyone else's plans are. I'm gonna see if Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble later on today. That's kind of my plan for the night. Sit there going, come on, has he won yet? Has he won yet? And what Ryan's doing right now is basically what I'm gonna do. So
I don't know anything about like modern wrestling at all.
But you do know Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So his son is Cody Rhodes. So all you need to know. His dad was the American Dream. The son is the American Nightmare. There you go.
And just to add to this guy Taurus, was it his
pec muscle? Yes, completely bruised.
fit in, wrestled a Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins, and then went and got surgery done, and this is the first time he comes back. So it's the Rocky Balboa story for us wrestlers.
It is. His chest was purple going into that match, but he was already booked for the main event, and he still did the Hell in a Cell. And Seth Rollins is not an easy person to keep up with. That was last June. Cody's back, so let's do it.
Now I want to go watch wrestling. You got me all excited now.
Yeah, sir. Everyone's asking about Kendar and Ralph, so yes, he did make an appearance. So thank you, Adam Hodgins, for
the Kendar.
the Kendar. Awesome. Yeah, I see Zazel and Gazz talking about it in the chat, and Nolan talking about it in the chat, and all the members. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks everyone in the chat for being here, and we'll call it. And I'll see you all again soon. Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
having me, Ken. Appreciate it.
Spend time with you guys.